You died, and that's it then, right? You fell in lava, your items are gone, it's all over, and so it's time to quit the game and start a new world. No, hit that respawn button, because your world deserves another chance unless you're in hardcore mode, but if you're not, then death might seem bad, but it's really an opportunity for you to try again, perhaps in a different way than leading up to your death. Let's take this as an opportunity to help you get back on your feet in a Minecraft world, because there are lots of different levels of death, and the first level is simple because all you've got to do is get your stuff back quickly. This is easy to do if you know exactly where you died, or if you were lucky enough to glance at your coordinates and you know the dimension, which I hope you would, but even if not, you can vaguely remember roughly where it is you died. I think it was magma cubes that killed me, somewhere with some soul sand, and then you can use that information to go back and get your stuff. If it's within 5 minutes of your spawn, you have no issues whatsoever, and indeed, I believe that's pretty close by. There are only a few Neverwart valleys in my world, thankfully, and so this is a very unique location. Hopefully, it's the one that I'm thinking of, and it is! Wow, look at that. That is incredible. I can get all of my stuff back, and even a little bit of my experience. Dying can seem really, really bad in Minecraft, but actually, most of the bad things that can kill you will despawn when you do, and that means when you come back, as long as there's not a cast, you are going to be just fine. Most deaths are very easily recoverable, even though you then have to do a lot of inventory management. With some tricks, you don't need to be quick, and you probably know that dropped items will disappear after around 5 minutes. This is something I tested on the roof of my Let's Play house of Diamond Ore, and voila, after exactly 5 minutes, the gear despawned. This is a very well-known Minecraft fact, but a lesser-known Minecraft fact that hopefully you do know if you're more experienced with the game is the fact that this 5-minute timer only applies if you are in the chunks where, if the chunks that the items are in are actually loaded into the game. The amount of chunks that are loaded depends on your simulation distance, but long story short, if you are very far away from your stuff, you actually have lots of time. You can use this to get decent gear to defend yourself against, say, the monsters that are going to be there, and this means you can spend minutes, hours, or even days preparing to go get your stuff after you die. This means that even if you die in the worst place and it seems entirely unrecoverable, actually, you might be just fine. However, there is one set of circumstances where you stand no chance, and that is if you were to die in lava. Imagine the worst happens, you're working on an impressive build, and you forget until the last second that, like, oh no, there is a big pit of lava. And here's the crazy thing, if you're not wearing Netherite, nothing that you own will survive this. I would recommend, by the way, try and get as close to land so that when you do die, something might survive. But if you're already dead and your stuff is lost, you're stuck with no items and no levels. It's just your character as if you were starting a brand new world. What do you do here? Oh, by the way, you can see the Netherite floating, and also the survival of that shovel. Very nice. But here's the secret. It's not a brand new world, because look at this. I have a bed, I have a house, and inside of the house, I have many other items. Lots of people do assume that if you lose your experience and your items, that you're basically starting over fresh, but you're never truly starting over fresh because you have all of the work and all of the effort you've put into this point. Ultimately, a lot of people's final goal in Minecraft are these big projects, and so if you still have them, you're very much lucky. Unless a creeper happened to explode everywhere in your world at the exact same time, or a mega TNT went off, let's say, then you are almost certainly fine in terms of builds. But what about your character? You want to get right back to mining, you want to get right back to all of these other projects, and so the secret is, if you have a stash, go there now. I know that in my long-term survival world, that death is not the end for me, because I keep multiple backups of every single type of item that I might want. New pickaxe, got it sorted. New set of armor, I've got it all the way up to Netherite. It's a fun project sometimes to have duplicate copies of each piece of gear, and this is precisely one of the reasons why. And that is, it's kind of like having a savings account in the real world. You hope that you're never going to have to dig into them, but if you ever do, you're going to be so grateful that you did it. And this is why it can be fun to build this as a saved items project. Honestly, even if you died and you don't have any of this stuff, it can be fun to say, yeah, actually, I'm learning the value of having insurance. Why don't I go ahead and insure myself for next time? If you're going to be building from the ground up anyway, and it's likely not the very ground up, then maybe what you might enjoy is building this stuff, whether it's an armory, look at it's literally a giant anvil for me, whether it's something much more secure like a bank, or whether just in your house you keep some spare pieces of gear that maybe you lend to friends when they come round, or you keep for yourself in a future world. Whichever way you want to tie this into the theme or the purpose of your world, you can save some items for next time. time. I would say that this is surprisingly easy to do in modern Minecraft because structures like the End City and the Ancient City will just throw spare pieces of gear at you like there's no tomorrow, and a lot of people will turn this stuff down, but you're going to regret leaving that diamond pickaxe in the chest when you need a second one, and so having some extra pieces of gear, the very best you can, is something every world should have, and it sucks to realize this way, but ultimately every lesson in life has to be learned the hard way, and that is actually something you can take more broadly, because the next thing to keep in mind is that you should always be learning. Even when things get bad and sad and you just want to cry in despair because you lost that whole shulker box full of stuff that you spent so long working towards, even when that happens and you feel demotivated, there is a lesson to be learned. One of those is be very careful around lava, and another is, you know what, magma cubes suck, you should spend a lot more time making sure they can't spawn. You can learn all of these lessons in the way that you want to, but making sure that you get better at the game rather than angrier at it is something that separates those who are good at Minecraft and those who enjoy the game from those who have some long-seated anger management issues that they're slowly going to take out on the people one by one in their life until slowly they have no one left and they'll die alone, and you don't want that to happen to you, I assume. But maybe you do want that, or maybe you think there's absolutely nothing else that can be learned, and in this case, I would keep in mind that Minecraft can be made easier in two ways. One of those is to actually improve at the game and learn what you're doing just a little bit better, and the other is by actively turning Minecraft down. Because Minecraft is a sandbox game, it gives you this secret option called settings every time you open up a world, and literally forces you to look at it before you make a world, and this has lots of options which will make your game a bit easier. If you couldn't locate your death spot, try turning on coordinates. If you're worried about the explosions, you can turn those off, although they're hidden behind activate cheats, something I don't recommend turning on, but something which isn't hidden behind allowing cheats, even though it can feel like one, is turning down the difficulty. Playing on peaceful will make no mob spawn, and playing on easy will mean that every mob and every source of damage is slightly nerfed in relation to you. This is incredibly powerful and feels a bit like a cheat or playing on easy mode, literally. However, it's balanced by the number of things that you can't do. Minecraft is easier in some ways on hard than it is on easy, and it's definitely easier on easy than it is on peaceful because you have full access to all of the mob drops from the game, and your only downside is that if you kept on taking hits, you would eventually die, but this is something you can avoid a lot easier and easier than any other difficulty. And so, all you've got to do is to make sure you don't cheat, or indeed, make sure you do cheat and change your stance on that, but I would recommend picking something that you're going to be happy with in the long run, especially when it's a world you care about. Without doing weird editing to your game world files, you cannot turn off the activate cheats flag once it's been turned on. Even if you turn it on with a brief moment of rage, it will be stuck off forever, which is something you might not like as the time passes, but this is something that would be a lot easier on easy than any other difficulty. And indeed, if you are really set on not just changing difficulty, but on making your world one which will have the activate cheats enabled forever, something you can never undo, maybe instead you'd like to simply add an add-on to this. So there are add-ons available directly through Minecraft, but there are hundreds or thousands of more of these which you can find anywhere on the internet. Maybe you'd like to find one that can make your stuff never burn in lava, give everything the Neverite tag effectively, or maybe you'd like to find an add-on that just gives you dragons and makes the world more fun. Whichever way you want to do it, there are lots of add-ons out there which might make your Minecraft world more exciting. And if you weren't able to find one for you, then what would your options be? Well, I think the simplest one is to start like it's a new world. Personally, I think it's a huge boom to have access to all of your resources from your existing world. However, having no tools and none of that stuff can make you feel like you're starting from ground zero just without any of the fun of actually building a new house and doing some exploration. And so what I would say is start like it's a new world, and that way you can get back up to your gear and then maybe revisit this later. So let's do a thought experiment and imagine two versions of you side by side. One of those versions decides, screw it, I'm just gonna start a whole new world. You want to experience the newest beauty and terrain that exists, and you get really lucky and you get precisely that. You spend months on this brand new world and really enjoy it and have all of these builds before you even think about that old world, but you do think about it sometimes, and you know, you might think, well, it's much better this way because it looks more beautiful, but imagine if you could have all of this new beauty, but you didn't pick a new world, because this is just one version of you. The other version decided to do the exact same thing, but inside of your existing world. And this means that not only do you get to see those old projects, like maybe you destroyed a nice mountain because you were sad one day, maybe you get to see some really interesting terrain combinations. So instead of seeing a mountain over here, you actually get a more interesting biome combination of jungle and then snowy plateau and then mesa. You get to see that history of your old world, and one day, if you really want to, you can even go back to it, or you can make the fact that it's the old world part of your world's story. Having history is always going to be more interesting than not, and that is why so many of the world's newest and most successful countries are trying to invent history and trying to upplay it, because humans will always find the existence of something old to be fascinating. That is why millions of people flock each year to cities in Europe that the locals despise, because we find history and culture to be so beautiful, we will travel across the world to see it. And you know what? When we do travel, we tend to bring a friend. That's right, the ultimate way out of any bad situation, real life or Minecraft, is to bring a buddy to help you out. Playing some multiplayer brings a lot of advantages, such as another person to help pick up and save your items after your death, and another person to help you avoid that death altogether as well, by helping you fight or saving you from a big fall. This is something that can be a lot of fun by itself, because Minecraft can be just as fun, if not more, in multiplayer compared to single player. I know that sounds hypocritical to say when you're the king of single player, no friend Minecraft like I am. However, I would say that I actually have invited numerous people to this world over the years. A lot of people don't know this, but I would invite a lot of people to the world, let them look around, and then kill them for their map, something that you could do to your friends as well. Or maybe not, I don't know about your friendships, but depending on the type of death you had, you might find that none of these things help with you, and so instead you might just want to take your revenge. It's time for the chaotic option. Obviously your death wasn't your fault, it was the game's fault, so it's time to seek justice. If you died by creeper explosion, find and kill all of the creepers in your world. Kill enough that you can make all of the fireworks in the world, and then add insult to injury by putting creeper heads inside of those fireworks. Or you can make a very cruel creeper farm that will torture those creepers, leaving them within an inch of death so that you can decide when they live or die, because they will decide never to mess with you again after this. If you died by lava, time to get rid of all the lava in the world. This is a fun idea I've always wanted to do, but at bare minimum, you might take this as an opportunity to say, yeah, OSHA would not approve of this, never. You can't have this tiny of a rail between your workers and their death, and so you should treat yourself like OSHA would, and you should slap a big citation on that and actually make your nether a safe place to be. If you died by full damage, share your pain with other mobs and have them be on the brink of falling to their death. I've heard dangling mobs of leashes tied to fence posts in the air is quite a common and normal thing to do. Well-adjusted humans do this all the time, and the very most well-adjusted humans will decide to make a villager torture chamber. They probably didn't kill you, but they were probably plotting to do so, and they still definitely deserve it. Just remember, conspiring against you is not a crime in itself, but you can make sure that people suffer regardless. And you know what? If this hasn't helped you, if going a little bit out on the sadistic side of the game has not helped you in the very slightest, then maybe you should just give up. Because if you're unsatisfied with any of these options, there's only one left, and it's to click that red X. If this video has helped you with a death in Minecraft, please do let me know in the comments down below, and consider subscribing to the channel if you really enjoyed it to see more Minecraft advice, facts, and update news, because that is something we cover every single day on this channel. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Harrison and KMV for the help on this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.